The Self in Personal Transformation Esteem. Most people think that it's too late for them to make changes in their lives. Many of the older generation have said, "I'm too old to change my ways now." This is not true. It is never too late to strive for a better tomorrow. By going online, you will find articles that will help you make these changes. In fact, by researching and learning ways to make changes, your mind will broaden its horizons, which expands your life. It is a proven fact that reading, writing, and research broadens the mind, which the action replaces dying cells with new cells. You may add 10 or 15 more years to your life by researching and learning alone. The first step for you to take while working toward finding ways to make personal transitional changes is to motivate the self. When one builds motivation, it gives them hope for the future while carrying one through life successfully. Motivation is one's inspirations that stimulate the body and mind by promoting it to take action. Our encouragement eggs us on. Through motivation, one learns to use persuasion while generating new ideas that help one make personal transformation. It boosts your confidence and self-esteem. We have the inner self, which gives us strength. We all must learn to draw from this inner self in order to connect the body and mind so that it works in harmony. We all have natural abilities, despite whether one recognizes them. We can use inner strengths such as self-talk, meditation, and subliminal learning. The inner mind must become broadened so that you strengthen the conscious mind, which becomes your ultimate guide for making better decisions. We all must find our way in life. Rarely will anyone else volunteer to take our hand and walk us through the process of self-development. Thus, expanding your knowledge through subliminal learning can provide you enforcements that help one to learn to accept and recognize that transformation changes are necessary to improve your life. Recognizing your abilities will help you make better decisions. Instead of using the critical mind or the child mind, you will broaden the mind and use all sections in order to make positive changes. We all have the critical side of the mind, which is the area that allows us to reason and make judgment. We also have the parent side of the mind, which provides us comfort in troubled times. The child side of the mind is your area of the brain that offers you time to enjoy entertainment, activities, and so on. This area of the brain is the one that you want to focus on, since this child holds the keys that link you to the inner self. The child has many answers, and it takes you to probe into the side of the mind that will help you solve problems. We have also the nourishing side of the brain, which is where we receive comfort from when things go wrong. The rebellious side of the brain is the area that can cause us to become too critical, which may cause us to make bad judgments. We need to work on all areas of the brain so that they begin to work in harmony, which will improve our life no matter how old we may be. Through subliminal exploring, one can make this action become real. Subliminal learning will assist you with connecting with all areas of the brain. You can visit the internet today to find additional information that will help you find techniques that you can use to make personal transformations while building self-esteem. Explore your brain to make transitional changes and build self-esteem. The brain in personal transformation esteem. Understanding the basic layout of the brain will help you focus on the areas that you can probe into to find answers that help you build self-esteem by making personal transformations. The brain has many sides, and each side has its own unique purpose. First, we can focus on the left side of the brain. Considerations of the left side of the brain. At the lower part of the brain is the cerebellum. It is the area our muscular coordination helps us to balance our movement. The area of the brain is at the rear and is located diametrically at the back of the cerebrum or front part of the brain. Typically, this side of the brain consists of two halves that connect with the thin inner area of the brain. It controls the brain's activities, giving us balance. Why do I need to focus on this area? Because it provides you motion balance. If you intend to build self-esteem through personal transformations, you will need to probe into the mind to convince this area of the brain to work in harmony with other areas of the brain. Considerations of the right side of the brain. In adjacent to the cerebellum is the medulla oblongata, located also at the lower section of the brain. This area of the brain connects with the spinal cord. The role of the cerebellum is to help us balance vision, hearing, speech, behavior, emotions, visual recognition, sensations, basic motion, and skilled movements. Yet this area works in union with other areas of the brain, including the medulla oblongata. At the lowermost section of the brain, it links to the vertebrates. Continuously, it works with the spinal cord to control involuntary vital functions, e.g. the ones involved with the lungs and heart. By taking care of the vertebrates and the spinal cord through exercise, one can join the medulla and cerebellum so that the two work in harmony. Amid the medulla and cerebellum are darker areas of the brain, which are the nerve cells. These darker cells are defined as the Purkinje cells, in which they are the larger nerve cells. Thus, it helps us to deduce that we must also take care of this nerve cell. If the nerve cells suffer or are damaged, it can cause us to experience great stress that ultimately affects our attitude. We see a need to take care of the body and mind, then to build self-esteem, and then to make personal transformations. Slightly above the medulla is the pons, and just above the pons is the third ventricle. The pons is our brain nerve fibers that form as whitish bands that connect to the surface of our brain stems amid the medulla and the midbrain. Since we are made up of moral fibers, it is logical to deduce that one must feed the brain and body natural remedies to heal itself. This ventricle is another focus we want to give attention to, because this is the connection to the artery of the body. Thus, it is responsible for carrying oxygenated blood to other arteries. Otherwise, it could cause hydrocephalus to set in, which is a serious disease of CSF or cerebrospinal fluid. We must take care of the heart and brain to keep this area healthy. Good health is essentially necessary to help us boost our self-esteem and make personal transformations. The brain sections out into other parts, which on the right side of the brain, just above the third ventricle, is the crus cerebri of the midbrain. This is of exceptional importance to us because the midbrain acts as our ear, which allows us to hear and balance the body and mind. This middle area of the brain has three chief divisions of either the embryonic or the adult brain in vertebrates. The technical name is mesencephalon. Learn more about the brain so that you can build self-esteem through personal transformations. Personal transformation and esteem in the brain. Our brain sections off into many areas, which some of these areas are responsible for helping us to build self-esteem and make personal transformations. The peripheral anatomy of the brain gives us the ability to learn, use common sense, wits, understanding, reason, and more. At the top of the brain and on the right side is the parieto-occipital sulcus. This side of the brain provides us with sensations. We must focus on this area of the brain while exploring the mind to make personal changes. Because we have sensations from this area, it produces our feelings that are affected by our environment, people, and so on. Our feelings, once triggered, affect our mood and ultimately drives us to our character. As we know, it spins out of our quality. People can notice the sensations that produce feelings by recognizing changes in our character traits, tone, and so on. When we sit down to discover ways to make transitional changes, it is important that we connect and we recognize our sensations that produce feelings. By recognizing these sensations, we can make better judgment by assessing the problem at all angles instead of one side. Your sensations can guide you to positive change, but you must learn to recognize what affects these feelings. We experience sensations from our atmosphere and the changes that take place around us each day. For instance, you may feel overwhelmed in one area of the world, yet move to a quieter environment that makes you feel safe. Your attitude will change. Your environment plays a large part in how these sensations respond. People also affect this area of the brain. For instance, when someone is friendly, we respond in one way, but if a person is arrogant, we respond in another way. People change the way we feel. The tone of someone's voice can cause various sensations that produce unregulated feelings. For instance, if someone is undermining or belittling you, you would respond with anger to that person's attitude. On the other hand, if that person is sincere and kind, then your attitude will work in harmony with that person by expressing kind feelings in return. That is, unless you are someone that is outright arrogant and has a negative outlook on life. Then the mind is often cluttered with junk, which makes it difficult for that person to decipher what you are saying. Your words become distorted. What this means is that we need to unclutter the mind. The mind needs room to feel natural sensations that promote healthy feelings. Some of the ways that we can change our mind's patterns or ways of thinking is by centering on the subconscious mind. We can deduce that the left side of the brain's postcentral gyrus is responsible for our behavior and emotions. It is the area of the brain that the subconscious and unconscious mind may circulate producing activities. For this reason, to unclutter the mind, it is logical to think that we must center on this area of the brain while practicing subliminal learning and meditation. By centering in on this area of the brain, it is possible to research hidden messages that could direct us to making personal changes that boost our self-esteem. We have other areas of the brain to consider, however. Since some areas of the brain provide us with basic movement, skilled movements, visual recognition, and so on, we must also center in on the child, parent, nourishing, rebellious, critical, and other sides of the brain to decide if our subconscious and subconscious mind is near the postcentral gyrus at the left side of the brain. Only then can we effectively probe right away into the subliminal mind to find answers. Bone up on the sciences of the brain. Sciences in personal esteem transformations. Considering the brain, we see that the postcentral gyrus area that is responsible for our skilled movement. The area is the ridge of the brain's cortex that circles and is the outer layer of the brain's cavity. Deducing that this area of the brain is responsible for our skilled movements, it may be possible that we can develop our creative mind by focusing on this area of the brain. What this means is that the area of the brain allows us to become very good at performing tasks. We have strength from this area of the brain that allows us to develop unique abilities to competence and in handling tasks. What is required to expand and develop this area of the brain is training and experience. We see then that much of our knowledge and experiences is situated near this cavity of the brain. It characterizes our needs to use unique abilities that we must develop through practice over time. Still, one must consider other areas of the brain, since the brain must work in harmony in order to allow us to develop successfully. We can involve ourselves in subliminal exploring, which is a series of processes that advance us and allow us to make personal changes that build self-esteem. Developing the creative mind enables you to create things successfully. When you develop the creative mind, it becomes innovative and original. You use this mind, which others see that your imagination is at work creating new ideas or inventions. It gives us ways to make creative approaches to analyze problems of one's space. Moreover, we create a resourceful mind that admits us to make imaginative use of the limited resources that we currently have. This is broadening by our willfulness to use the creative mind to find other solutions to solve problems. Moreover, one uses this mind intentionally to create new concepts and ideas that help us to invent new ways to make personal transformations. Some people take advantage of this gift and intentionally become deceptive in the business place or in other areas of the world. This is because they are functioning on one side of the brain, instead of pulling from all resources of the brain. This is why we must focus on correcting conceptual learning, because it is responsible for the creation of who we are now. By analyzing the brain's abilities and exploring the subliminal, unconscious, and conscious minds, we can devise a plan to manipulate through self-development successfully. The goal is to develop the creative mind while centering in on all areas of the brain's activities. We develop thoughts from our past learning, knowledge, experiences, and our events. We must analyze these patterns in order to find details that direct us toward solving our problems. We have the natural ability to solve problems, yet it takes much effort and time on our part to complete our mission. We also have the inner child within, which is the little person we want to become familiar with. It is because this inner self holds hidden messages below the surface of the conscious mind that could help us to expand our knowledge of the self. We must reach within the self to make new discoveries that help us to heal the body and mind of its suffering. Using subliminal exploring, we can probe into this mind and find answers by self-analyzing the details. Today, you can visit the internet to research the various New Age solutions that will assist you with building self-esteem, developing the creative mind, and exploring other ways to continue to develop all areas of the brain. Learn more about your emotions and behaviors. Emotions in esteem and transformation. Did you ever wonder why stress forms around the front area of the head when you feel discouraged? We all have experienced moments when the front area of the brain felt stressed and it made it difficult for us to think clearly. This is because the front area of the brain, just below the scalp, is where our behavior and emotions reside. In between the postcentral gyrus and the frontal lobe of the brain rests our emotions and behaviors. Focusing on this area of the brain can help us modify behaviors through psychological methods that will enable us to treat maladjustments. We can also modify these problems by transforming our observable behavior patterns. By focusing on behavioral and emotional problems, one can make positive transformations while building his or her self-esteem. The key is to modify the way you perceive by focusing on the conceptions. What are conceptions? Conceptions are our role models where original notions, ideas, thoughts, theories, and so on develop. Our conceptions enable us to reach comprehensive levels based on information the brain retains. We can modify our conceptions in order to grasp meaning and understand our situation more effectively. Conceptions play into perceptions. Our observation processes enable us to witness visualizations that tell a story. We start to develop impressions, hypotheses, viewpoints, thoughts, and ideas that create our beliefs. In short, conceptions are our foundation where beliefs are set. Beliefs are strong components of our human makeup. Beliefs put ideas in our mind from external influences which create our convictions, principles, ethic, faith, and so on. We build confidence and self-esteem from our beliefs, which arrives from developed trust, certainty, credence. When one distrusts, it often leads to a series of complicated problems. One must move to examine the inner self in order to rectify these problems and find answers that help one make personal transformation. Convictions are established by finding the facts that verify and clarify something that we believe. For instance, if you believe that education is the ultimate way to success, then you must find evidence and facts that back your claims in order to verify your convictions. If your mind houses any doubt, then your convictions are weak, which means that you will have ongoing problems until you resolve the problem by modifying your conceptions. How does distrust affect my emotions and behaviors? When you are constantly suspicious of others, it creates a foundation of disbelief. Your emotions feel stressed, which your behavior patterns may often display to others, cynicism. Your attitude is affected, and since the emotions are overwhelmed, it becomes difficult to focus. You start to develop a negative attitude, which reflects on others through your behaviors. The problem must be corrected through personal transformations that build your self-esteem and confidence. When you are cynical, it promotes pessimism that leads to scorning the emotions because of the sarcastic views or conceptions created originally by someone or something that occurred in your childhood. Thus, you must repeatedly examine your past to find answers that help you resolve the problem. Two of the most commonly used methods to correct such problems are through self-talk and subliminal learning. If you fail to correct these problems in time, it could lead you to deception. Deception often leads to other major problems, which, in this case, it may be too late to readdress this issue and move through solving the problems quickly. We have many advantages today since we can visit the Internet to learn more about each subject of interest. Don't become disparaging. Rather, take control of your life. We must examine our problems rather than criticizing others. Problems in personal transformation, self-esteem examined. What do you think when you see people belittling others, mocking them, or improperly criticizing another entity? When you see a person scorned, denigrated, ridiculed, or backbiting others, you may think that these people are mean. Since we live in a world filled with slanderous souls, libels, and critics, it is hard to assess sometimes why these people are who they are. One might think that the entity was brought up that way. On the other hand, one might think that this person has learned behavioral problems that require rehabilitation. In many instances, both viewpoints are correct. Many children grow up being taught to despise others. The emotional discharge leads to behavioral problems that extend into their adulthood. It will take conceptual modification to adjust their attitude. Ultimately, they may have to hit rock bottom before the bullets start to hit the fan. Defamation is a series of insults and offensive patterns that extend internally into our world today. The only true way to correct these problems of denigration is to nip them in the bud now. We do this by encouraging personal transformation that builds self-esteem and confidence. It is time to put the conceptions in check by reforming the observable mind to think positive. All the traits mentioned only build up pessimistic thinking that leads to blaming, disapproval, unhealthy criticism, and finally guilty verdicts that lead to convictions. Not one person can continue their denunciation without paying great consequences for their actions. Thus, in order to prevent and halt these behaviors, we must all act now. The ultimate recourse leads us to absolution, which gives one freedom and liberty to forgive self and others. We can learn to pardon others' behaviors by releasing the negative energies that drive us down the road to calamity. Releasing the emotions through positive expressions will give you freedom of mind with practice. Instead of biting the backs of others, start to examine yourself instead to see what you can change to make your life better. Keep in sight that you cannot change behavior patterns of other people. It takes them to work through their own problems to transform their lives. When we consider freedom, however, we must develop balance in order to steer clear of cultivating lack of restrictions. We need restrictions to keep us strong. Restrictions are mechanisms that enable us to make good choices by avoiding harmful activities, entertainment, or other actions that puts us at abnormal risks. Freedom provides us inner strengths, which include openness. We start to conform to natural ways of living by exercising proper freedom. Freedom builds self-determination, independence, free will, inventiveness, frankness, candor, and abandonment about our fears, doubts, and other emotional problems that lead to deformations. When you work to develop the creative mind, that is, you can see that one must develop the creative mind by cultivating his or her free will to live naturally. As you start to create this mind, it creates a resourceful person that uses his or her imagination effectively to invent new ideas that helps that one make clever transformations. That entity can then take the initiative to transform his or her emotions, behaviors, and other aspects of his or her character that helps that one abandon pessimism attitudes and behaviors. We see that we are working towards self-identity, which builds self-esteem, ultimately making you original. Instead of shaking your head and constantly pointing out the problems of others, start changing yourself today by examining your own behaviors and emotions. One can practice meditation and subliminal exploring to figure out what is needed to change your behaviors. Finding personal transformation tips. Self-esteem discovered online. We all have admission to online publishing today. The Internet is the place to visit if you are searching for extra support that may help you find techniques that you can practice to make private adjustments of your thinking, behaviors, etc. while building self-esteem. Some of the popular techniques exposed online by many writers are the processes of studying the subconscious mind through meditation and other means. You may want to read up on subliminal exploring, since it will help you make personal transformations that build your self-esteem. By exploring the mind, one can enjoy the macrobiotic nourishment that the brain can offer. The brain does many things. The brain provides us comfort during trying times. The brain also has areas that can cause us to change our attitude in an unconstructive way. The changes often occur from associations, such as hanging around negative people often, or from unconstructive environmental changes. People feeding us misconceptions, or if our observable ways direct us to misconceive, it also affects us in a negative way. The brain must function in unison with the body and all parts of the mind to perform vigorous actions. Throughout subliminal exploring, one can change the way one thinks or sees things by working to modify the entity to the authentic person. Subliminal studying of the brain will assist you with abutting all divisions of the brain so that it works in harmony. Rather than employing one side of the brain, one can amplify the mind and use all divisions in alignment to make affirmative actions. We all have the critical points of the brain side, which is the area that allots us to reach an understanding while making adjustments of the self and others. Our mind can bestow us relief during challenging times. In the breadths of the brain, one has many compartments which branch off, separating the subconscious, conscious, and unconscious minds. According to recent findings, the subconscious mind is the link that houses concealed messages that, once explored, can lead us to a better future. This breadth of the brain is one that you want to focus on, since the self holds fundamentals that connect your identity or originality. The self has abounding answers, and it takes you to probe into the mind to enlighten the self while finding clarifications of your problems. We have the inner self, which gives us backbone. We all must learn to draw from this inner self in order to connect the body and mind so that it works in conformity. By inflating your knowledge, one can swiftly drift off into the subconscious mind and explore its hidden messages. The mind can afford you reinforcements that can help you learn to admit and allow that transformation change necessary to civilize your life. Recognizing your abilities will help you make better decisions. One of the steps for you to take while approaching ways to make personal communicative changes is to energize the inner self. When one expands his or her drive, it gives that one hope for the future while carrying him or her through the life productively. We need the drive to inspire the mind through stimulation, the brain's activities, and the body through bidding action. Developing self-determination will encourage us to practice techniques, such as mental exploring, to improve our life. Thus, one of the most effective ways to boost your motivation is by reprogramming your mind to use persuasive voice and thoughts. You can spawn cutting-edge ideas through subliminal exploring and meditation. It will also boost your backbone or fortitude and self-esteem. Use the internet as your weapon to find valuable information that can help you with the processes of making personal transformations and building self-esteem. Try some nighttime listening. Nighttime solutions in personal transformation self-esteem. Did you know that by playing positive music or instructions while you sleep, that your subconscious mind will retain the information, which you can explore the mind later to use the learned information to your advantage? Did you know that by repeatedly using positive instructions, such as the leadership guides on CD or DVD, that you can make personal transformations that build your self-esteem and skills? It is a proven fact that through nighttime listening, one can retrain the mind, transforming it to think positive while developing new skills. Your mind will retain nighttime listening CDs or other solutions, and some of the information will hide messages that you can explore to discover innovative ways to make personal changes. Personal transformations develop from conversions, or alterations of the way one thinks. For this reason, we can practice each night these techniques to improve our overall life by giving the self a complete makeover. One can combine nighttime listening with subliminal learning to reap greater benefits. When one studies the subliminal mind, it empowers them by allowing that one to discover details that help him or her solve problems effectively. You can renovate your mind through personal change, and in due course become the person you desire to be. That is the original self. It takes preparation, effort, and practice on your part to make personal transformation that builds your self-esteem. To get started, prepare your mind by training it with nighttime listening practices. You will set up the base after doing your homework. Through exploration, you can learn the techniques in order to train your mind. We all have natural talents. We can use inner support, such as our ability to self-articulate or meditate while moving through subliminal learning. The inner mind must convert its way of thinking to expand so that you build up the cognizant mind, which becomes your categorical guide. It helps you to make better decisions. We all must find our way in life. Hardly ever will anyone else offer unpaid assistance to walk us through the process of self-development. Nighttime listening combined with subliminal learning can help you reach your highest peaks in personal transformation. When you make positive change, it automatically builds your confidence and self-esteem. Coming with these changes is your self-respect. Your sense of worth will help you with making positive decisions that guide you to success. Ultimately, the only way that we can make a positive change is by putting forth effort. Not one person can place emphasis on effort to the magnitude that is required to keep striving toward self-development. The backbone of this developmental process includes our inner self. One can improve the way he or she thinks or behaves by connecting with his inner self through nighttime listening and subliminal learning. How it works. At nighttime, before you drift into sleep, plug a CD or DVD that provides you with positive instructions. You may want to use the latest neurofeedback programs or some tapes that you purchased. Each night, allow the recordings to feed your mind while you sleep. If you have a hard time sleeping with sounds in the backdrop, try using meditation to guide your mind and body so that you feel relaxed. You can drift off into a sounder sleep through relaxing through meditation. Once you wake up, take a few moments in the morning to examine the mind to see if it is ready to reveal any information it retained during sleep time. If it is not, do not force it. Rather, take care of your daily responsibilities, and before you drift off to sleep, explore your mind. Find your hope within you. Hope in personal transformation, self-esteem. We can find nourishment by examining the mind. Despite that people and our environment bring us down each day, we can reach inside the mind and find encouragement that gives us hope. The problem is, most people these days fail to take time out for relaxation. They allow the stress to build up until a breaking point, instead of giving the mind and body time to relax. All it takes is a few moments each day to relax the body and mind. Of course, most of us have busy schedules, which makes it difficult to find the few minutes we need to relax. However, by setting up a working time management plan, you can cut back some of the time wasted each day and use it for relaxation. Assessing time. Think of your duties that you must accomplish each day. What is the first thing on your agenda that you must accomplish? Examine your first task and see if you can find any openings that you can take advantage of by cutting back time. For instance, if your first task is to go to work in the morning, examine your duty. First, if you prepare ahead in the evening before getting your clothes out at night, choosing your breakfast, hairstyle, and other details that you can cut back a few minutes of time each morning. It will give you time to relax and prepare for work. What if you spent less time in the morning grooming, showering, or doing your hair? You can cut back some time by minimizing the time you spend in the bath or mirror, which gives you a few more minutes for relaxation. Next, consider what your chores are when you arrive home. If you have housework, perhaps your family and you can work together to complete the chores early. Perhaps you can prepare a healthy meal that takes less time to cook. You can set up an effective time management plan that will give you room to relax the body and mind. Once you have set up your time management plan, you can now work on improving your way of thinking and behaving. Try to clear up at least 1 hour each day so that you find time to meditate or explore the mind. Use paper and pen or your computer to write down what you learn from your thoughts and feelings through your mental exploring and meditation. Once you have the details on paper, take a few more minutes to analyze what you've learned. Make it a practice each day so that you see ways to make personal changes. Put forth the effort once you discover ways to make personal transformations. Get it done. Think about what you must do to make the changes without being interrupted. Continue with your time management and relaxation time to cut back on stress. Speaking of stress, you can reduce tons of daily stress buildup through practicing relaxation alone. By adding the other practices to your daily schedule, you can reduce more stress and time. In fact, if you continue through this journey of learning and finding the self, you will learn how to thrive on stress rather than let it get you down. By analyzing the mind each day, you become acquainted with subliminal exploring. Subliminal learning contributes you in many ways, since it reveals hidden messages that link you to unresolved problems. We all have hope. We simply must reach deep within our mind to find the encouragement we need to make personal transformations. You will build confidence, which boosts your conceptions of the way you see yourself. In short, it builds your sense of worth. Learn about the body transformations to help you find ways to improve your self-esteem. Body transformations and self-esteem. We must reflect on all characteristics of our human framework in order to understand the personal transformation and self-esteem development. By analyzing the body, one can start to understand more about the unexplained transformations that take place in certain people. Take, for example, a young child that you know. At first, the child may have seemed friendly and sociable. At what time puberty starts, however, the child changes his or her way of thinking, and the child's behaviors become insubordinate and problematic. His semi-matured attitude has reflected on others through his or her demeanor and behaviors. The child all of a sudden starts to puzzle everyone around him, including his or her parents. What is taking place in this child are cycles of changes that involve the child overcoming many barriers to break the chain of reaction that leads him or her to maturity. The puberty phase is perhaps one of the most challenging transformations the body will confront in its lifetime. The transformations occurring here cause a new person to form. The body is changing while chemical reactions are obsessively taking place. Hormones, for example, are starting to form and alter its productive methods. In addition, the body is prepped by the change, since it is preparing to reproduce through the series of transformations. The process is the child's insurance that helps him or her to endure the changes in life. During this transformation phase, the child's organs, such as the lung and heart, start to develop. Sometimes the developmental rate speeds up, tripling its rate in some instances. The child's thyroids, located in the region of the neck, commence the process of enlarging. The thyroids are the glands that form as endocrines. It is responsible for assisting the endocrine system, whereas hormones are produced. This system is a specialized organ that makes up body tissues, which produce, stores, and secretes chemical substances we all know as hormones. While the enlargement change is taking place, the chest's thymus begins to reduce in size. During this transformation, the thymus evaporates. The muscles start to solidify, which deposits of fats start to form new prototypes. The development of soft cartilage forms, which at this time the growth phase takes hold. In time, the growth phase stops after permeates of calcium forms that transmit to the cartilage. Many transformations occur during this growing phase, but once it stops, many other dramatic changes take place. The bones become hard while the skin takes on a new change. The child's fat glands start to activate, which affects the oily secretions that increase, enlarging the pores. Aging signs develop during this change. We see this when children have acne problems. By understanding the body's changes, we can work in harmony with the body to help it make transformations effectively. At this time, one must stay physically active and prepared to perform other healthy tasks to grow healthy. Since the hormones are also going through active changes, it is important to understand what takes place in the body to assist the transformations with finishing its natural duty. First, the pituitary gland is responsible for triggering puberty. What is occurring are natural changes in the body, yet these changes are often interrupted because many people lack knowledge that helps them to understand and manage their transformations. Instead, they fight against nature, which leads them to other problems. What is taking place during hormonal changes is the production of other hormones, including the HGH or the human growth hormone, as well as other hormonal productions. By helping your child understand the changes in the body, you can avoid meeting that mutinous or insubordinate teenager that we have all met at one time. Do you struggle with depression? Depression in personal transformation self-esteem. Depression is often misunderstood. Depression in learning disabilities is a common mental handicap today. Studies have shown that children that suffer with learning disadvantages often have difficulty learning to speak properly, take care of themselves, and suffer the inability to cope with everyday pressures of life. Many of the persons who suffer depression coupled with learning disabilities are said to be borderline retarded. It makes sense almost, since depression is rooted from emotional scares, childhood traumas, chemical imbalances, and lack of proper nutrition, while learning disabilities may stem from lack of proper education, influences, and miscommunications. Ultimately, all of these problems link to underdevelopment from failure of make personal changes. When a person is overwhelmed with stress, it plays a key role in depression and in learning disabilities. If your child is suffering symptoms such as lack of enthusiasm while playing, misery, sadness, relentlessness, agitation, suicidal thoughts, low self-esteem, as well as other negative emotions, it's time to visit your doctor. If you or someone you love suffers from learning disabilities, depression, or impulsive behavior disorders, it is important to keep the chain of communication going. Writing is another strategy recommended by therapists abroad to assist people suffering from depression in making positive transformations. Writing is a gift, a love, an art, and a means of expressing what you may not be able to say with words. It is very important to keep close contact with a qualified counselor or to take your medications as prescribed if your depression is a mental health or caused from a chemical imbalance. While therapists are constantly learning what is needed to reduce symptoms of depression, new solutions are on its way. You may experience vicissitudes while taking various prescriptions. Still, it is important to follow the therapeutic guidelines laid out for you until a solution is available. If you suspect your medicines are not responding appropriately by reducing your symptoms or causing serious side effects, be sure to consult your doctor immediately before further complications arise. It is up to you to let the doctor know what is going on with your condition. If you feel depressed and the problem is related to undeveloped causes, you can benefit by practicing the New Age techniques such as yoga, meditation, subliminal learning. You can also take accelerated learning courses to develop skills and work through the process of making positive transformations. It is important that you develop the self, otherwise you will experience problems throughout your lifetime, which you will find them harder to manage. Through meditation, you can encourage the body and mind to relax. Often people strive through busy days and fail to find time for the mind and body to relax throughout the day. It is not until they go to bed that they try to relax. Unfortunately, many people are suffering sleep disorders, such as insomnia, sleep apnea, or other conditions related to stress that the body and mind does not get the rest it needs in a single day. Because many people are not giving the body and mind room to relax as much as it needs, it is causing serious epidemics of depression to develop. In order to correct the problem, people must change their lifestyle and ways of thinking, and perhaps their behaviors, in order to give the body and mind what it needs. Still, some of the problem causing depression is from lack of proper nutrition and physical exercise. When one conforms to the law of health, they can resolve many problems, including depression. For additional help, you can visit the internet to find other solutions that will help you work through personal transformations, build self-esteem, and reduce your depressive symptoms. We can discuss women to see what is necessary to help them grow. Women and personal transformations, self-esteem. Women's health can be a difficult task to maintain if the woman is not taking care of herself properly. Unfortunately, women's health is a broad circuit that includes negative actions such as domestic violence. Domestic violence is a widespread issue that women of all ages, races, and educational backgrounds face every day. Another of the leading problems that women face is breast cancer and depression. Breast cancer has claimed the lives of more than thousands of lives every year, and to avoid breast cancer or else to determine if you are a victim of breast cancer, women should have regular breast exams, as well as feel for lumps each week. If you feel that you might have a potential candidate for breast cancer, it is advised to consult with a specialist to resolve the issue immediately. Tests generally are utilized to get rid of cancer before it spreads, as well as stopping cancer from recurring. Depression is another issue that is an issue with women's health. Many women every day suffer from depression. Depression is not a problem one wants to ignore. People have literally died because of depression, simply because they committed suicide instead of finding a solution. Regardless of your gender, race, age, etc., depression can attack. After the September 11 attacks, millions of women and men around the world suffered from depression. If you feel you or a loved one is suffering depression, do not wait until it is too late to get to a professional immediately for treatment. The Women's Health National Cervical Cancer Coalition has issued a warning to the 11% of women in the world that have reported that they do not adhere to cervical screenings. As a result of this neglect, over 3,900 women in the United States die each year. The National Cervical Cancer Coalition says cervical cancer is the #1 killer of women. What a scary notion. Women's health is important, since unlike men, who also are at risk for their own diseases, women have a higher risk factor. AIDS and other sexually transmitted diseases are also on the top of the list for claiming thousands of lives each year. Women, if you value your health, it's time to protect yourself. It is important to stop avoiding women's health issues and face them head on. Go to your doctor for regular scheduled checkups and conform to the physician's advice. Also, use protection if you are sexually active. For more information on women's health issues, go online and surf the World Wide Web or consult with a specialist. For this reason, women are encouraged to make personal transformations that can reduce the risk of disease and other harmful acts that rob them of their life. Women can make positive transformations by retraining themselves so that they conform to the New Age realm that we are in today. Through physical exercise and meditation, you can improve your physical, mental, and emotional life. By doing so, you will avoid making decisions that may put you in the arms of danger. In addition, you can start making transformations that reduce the risks of cancer, depression, and other conditions that affect your life in a negative way. Because women are forced to take on larger burdens by working, taking care of the home, children, and do other duties, it is impossible for a working woman to find time for herself. We must make positive transformations by finding the time to spend with herself. By doing so, we can retrain the mind so that we can give it time to grow and learn. Women are wise to research, become well-versed, and take actions that reduce their ever-increasing risks. Change in personal transformations, self-esteem. People often think that it is no big deal when it comes to self-esteem. Self-esteem is a very important human quality that everyone benefits from. There are a lot of people in the world that have many issues with the way they feel about themselves. Most people in the world do not feel good about themselves, so they think down on themselves, as like they do not love themselves or have any way out in the world. Well, that is not true. There are ways to get out and feel better about oneself. This is a time issue, and it is not going to happen overnight. You did not get this way overnight. Here we can discuss ways to improve your way of thinking, Moreover, we can consider ways to change through personal transformations. For most of us, this is a change for us, but there is hope for you since we have doctors to help us with this issue, for those that need the help, but for the most of us we can change on our own. There are some things that you will have to do that helps you with the change. What are some things that I can change? Well, you might want to try to get out and meet some new people. Sometimes people that associate with you can affect your life, including your perspectives of the way you see life. So you might want to figure out what ones are good friends and replace the ones that are dragging you down. You might want to go and do things for most with positive friends. This is a problem as well as any other one, since they do not feel like going out and doing anything. Some people, all they want to do is lay around and sleep, or just hang and do nothing. So this is also going to be hard for you to get off the sofa and go meet new people and learn to enjoy life. How to find resources that can help me make personal transformations. You may want to visit local social centers in your area. They are always most of the time cheerfully as well as supportive when you are going through changes. It is always a good thing to have a help when you need it. Visiting your local gym a few times a week will motivate you, build social skills, and help you with making positive changes. Some people also find friends at the supermarket, which the new friends may join you in your journey to make positive changes. What if I try certain techniques and they don't work? Well, if you have troubles with these issues, then you might want to see your local doctor. There are treatments for this. But they have to go through the chain as well. They have to be able to see what is causing you to feel the way that you do and go from there. Most of the time there is medication for this problem, so good luck with a new improved you. Once you have discovered the new you, there will be no holding you back. You are on the road to success. You can also take the time to research the internet to find new techniques that allow you to make personal changes naturally. Try some of the proven tactics such as meditation, yoga, exercise, aromatherapy, subliminal learning, meditation and biofeedback, neurofeedback, and some of the other New Age solutions. Most of all, spend quality time with yourself and take care of your health. Health in personal transformations. One of the top priorities today is health. Health includes our physical, mental, and emotional states of wellness. In fact, recent studies have led us to believe that many products marketed today have added chemicals in our foodstuff that has caused people to crave more. The problem has led to poor diet habits, which slows down the metabolic system. This system is where our natural energy is produced. Because of the increasing risks, we are encouraged to build self-esteem while making personal transformations that protect our health. This means we need self-control. Self-control is our human means that prevents us to balance our diet, exercise, and so on. We are encouraged to dedicate some of our time to find ways to make positive transformations to protect our overall health. Thus, we must consider prevention, unnatural aging, maintaining weight, increasing energy, and so on. By maintaining the metabolic system, we can increase energy, which keeps us aware. By regulating our health and making positive transformations through self-development, we can ensure that we live a longer, healthier, and happier life. Each of us must work to reduce the risks of disease and illnesses to protect ourselves. This means that we must complete the self-development process while exercising the body and mind. Exercise will help you maintain your weight. You can reduce risks such as high blood pressure, diabetes, heart disease, and more by sticking to a physical exercise routine. To avoid increasing aging, we must exercise daily, avoid destructive chemicals, eat healthy, and avoid living a detrimental lifestyle. When you stick to an exercise routine, it builds your stamina and energy so that you stay focused and motivated to eat healthy while manipulating through the self-development processes. Keeping a balanced energy level will ensure that you are willing to make personal transformations at the right time. You will also build a positive attitude, which builds your self-esteem and confidence. We must exercise the muscles and joints daily. However, you want to set up a 3-day routine whereas you promise yourself to work out the body in a full workout routine. We must keep energy flowing through exercise since it helps us to counterbalance weight and energy. Take some time to research the internet to find information that helps you to understand body types. The body type also factors into your progress through physical exercise. For example, if you have a weightlifter's body type, then likely you will need to find exercises that help you to build your energy while helping you to maintain the flow of weight that your body requires. Our body also requires proper nutrition. We must provide our body a balanced diet, which includes proteins, carbohydrates, fats, and other nutrients that keep the body strong. When you keep the body strong, the mind will start to work with your body. The metabolic system is one of the many things that we must keep healthy in order for the body to adjust naturally to changes. When the metabolism is too high or low, thus it robs you of energy or else causes you to overwork the body. The condition will cause you to feel overstressed, which could lead to serious health problems. Thus, our body needs balance to perform naturally. When you lie about on the couch watching television all day, it lowers your metabolism rate. To make personal transformations that reform this problem, you want to exercise self-control and build stamina to exercise. No one can place enough importance on the body's need to exercise. The joints and muscles will stay healthy, as well as you build other healthy structures of the body that makes personal transformations that much easier. Self-esteem and transformation. We can use various practices to improve our self-worth. It is important to build our self-esteem in order to withstand the nonsense that goes on in our life each day. When one has low self-worth, he or she places little value on the self, which can lead to laziness and depression. The conditions will cause many other problems to develop, including illness and disease. Self-worth is the value that we place on the self. We can use several methods that will assist us with making personal transformations while building self-esteem. To build self-worth, one has to cultivate a positive mind while making a few adjustments in his or her life and person. Keep in mind, having a balanced self-esteem is never easy, since people of all lifestyles will try at tearing down what you have built up. You want to cultivate and build staying power and positive energy, since you will need it to stand firm once you have cultivated and built your self-esteem. How do I build my self-esteem? All of us are different, so it depends on what you feel that is more assuring for you. For instance, some people build self-esteem by relying on people's compliments, while others do not need others to make them feel good about who they are. For the most part, one will need to use positive influences both externally and internally to cultivate and build self-worth. This means you will have to make some personal transformations in order to build your self-esteem. One of the most powerful ways to build self-worth is through physical exercise. Many case studies have proven that those who exercise reap many rewards, including confidence, self-esteem, self-control, self-reliance, positive thinking, nice bodies, healthy minds, healthy bodies, and so on. Writing is another way to build self-worth. You can make positive transformations through writing, since it allows you to express your feelings and thoughts privately. Instead of fearing that you will say something to hurt someone else or say something stupid, you can write down your thoughts and feelings without others hearing them. Once you have written them down, you can assess your feelings and thoughts in order to build your vocabulary, reading skills, writing skills, and observation. You also build self-esteem because your personal transformations are positive. Meditation is another option that will help you build self-worth. You can make positive changes by meditating each day. Meditation allows you to probe into the mind and relax. Relaxation is helpful since you will feel refreshed. Probing into the mind will help you with finding answers to your problems, in which you can use the information discovered to solve problems effectively. Yoga too is helpful. If you buy the instructional manual, it will walk you through the yoga step by step, and you will improve your overall life and health. Yoga teaches you self-discipline, which is a link to self-worth and personal transformation. This is because self-discipline connects one with self-control, willpower, and self-will. With willpower, you will have a higher plane of strength of mind and will. There is no better feeling in the world. When you are empowered, it makes you feel like an eagle soaring into the wild blue. You feel strengths that make you feel sometimes that you are on top of the world. The empowerment from positive change also makes one feel as though they can do anything they put their mind to do. And they can. The empowering feeling that comes with positive change and self-worth alone should initiate you to take action today. Instead of living your life on threads, pick up your torture stake and head into a positive direction. Personal transformation in self. Today, people are building on Luria and Vygotsky's plan. These plans were processes that would make personal transformation easier through private speech. According to Yagotsky and the co-partner Luria, self-talk could help standardize children's behaviors largely. By the meaning of private in the phrase private speech suggests a personal, secretive, concealed, and not in the view of anyone. Children typically start using self-talk when they feel bored or while playing on their own. Self-talk is an action that is considered a process of using private speech to build self-esteem. Inevitably, when children are talking to themselves, it is usually conducted in the form of dialogues. There are reports that deliberated that private speech could actually and are very effective to enhances one's language ability as well as problem-solving ability. The methodology was explored further. Now it has become better liked with educational programs of today. Complementing the personal transformation solution through self-talk, private sectors is encouraged since it can help improve children's teaching process in a more effective, structured way. The more popular enhanced structural approach is the facilitation of self-regulation, or put it simply, self-learning. Using self-talk, one is conducting private speech. This technique has effectively worked for many, since people probe into the mind, asking questions of the self within dialogues. Usually it resulted in creative thinking or deep analysis of one's knowledge as well as experience in an extensive manner. Studies have proven that self-regulation learning through private speech is very effective. Evidently, there have been experiments done extensively to prove this method of such platform of education. At a very basic level, to initiate this type of facilitation or education is actually introducing the importance of asking salient or rather key questions. Key questions usually comprises the what, where, when, who, and how. For example, within the exercises given to these children or learners, particularly comprehensive case studies are to be given to them, and the challenge to them is to solve the problem that is stated therein in the case study with the aid of these questioning strategies. This introduces a certain level of understanding how this approach actually works, and makes them get used to it so that even their daily lives they would, and hopefully being able to apply it. An entity might ask, what exactly is the problem? Where is the origin of the problem? When does the problem occur? Who causes these problems? How do I solve it? The constant effort of self-querying model has effectively helped children with thinking systematically while meditating. Throughout the process, children were able to solve their problems more effectively. Development is extensive. For this reason, schools are seeking answers to advance their programs into the new age in order to train children to become effective problem solvers through personal change. Consequently, the questions that they need to ask themselves will have to be case-specific as well as more in-depth. Tests were conducted on children who had gone through the training of self-regulation learning through private speech. The so-called normal students who had gone through conventional education, which resulted that children that went through the self-regulation model performed far exceeding those who are in conventional learning in their ability to express themselves, the depth of analysis, and the quality of their suggested solution. Concluding with improved learning methodologies, analytical and amplitude can be enhanced and optimized at a younger age. Visit the Internet where you will find the latest updates on the changes that are taking place in our school and all around the world. Children today have many benefits and are learning at rapid paces as these personal transformations unfold. Learn more about the latest academics. Academics and personal transformation self-esteem. In the field of academics, the learning process is by far one of the most challenging experiences. For this reason, many educational programs are probing to find ways on how to support, facilitate, and pilot learning in an optimized way. Learning, for any individual, the amplitude and enormity of the intensity of being proficient to understand and analyze will be at specific degree of being influenced at his or her younger days of school. Although there are many development and learning methodologies accessible today to assist educators in their expedition to impart and teach, but the most victorious of all may be encouraging personal transformation. Many processes have been underway and have proven to help students in the academic fields of study to make positive changes through self-regulation and self-talk. Largely, children are turning in several directions to standardize their behaviors through self-talk. By means of this natural technique, children are taking on such changes in privacy without others watching them. The action of self-talk has proven to build self-esteem while encouraging personal transformation. Using dialogue, people can now open discussions with the self, which will help them figure out their problems much easier. This line of approach is left open for more research. However, it is becoming popular in today's academic world. Private sectors are even encouraging self-talk in their programs. They have found that self-talk can help progress students' learning process in a more effective way. The environment has become more structured. The improved structural approach has encouraged self-regulation since it helps students learn on their own. The effective techniques enable one to probe into the mind. Once the person reaches inside the mind, he or she can then ask questions of the self. Being a personal training of self-talk and using the techniques for the course of my life, solely I can clarify that self-talk encourages one to think creatively while analyzing the mind more deeply. A tactic encourages meditation and subliminal learning. The tactic also encourages personal change and builds self-esteem. One can feel confident once they find answers to their problems. Proven studies have led academics to train students to self-regulate through self-talk. In several academic fields, teachers are introducing and pointing out the value of asking key questions to solve problems. The structure taught: question, ask, what, where, when, who, and how. During exercises, the children were tested on their ability to use strategies such as self-talk in order to assess their problems. Teachers are watching closely as children today are making personal transformations that lead to positive attitudes. Academics are introducing specific understanding and approaches that have proven to work. Through self-talk and regulation, children are taught to ask, what is precisely the problem? Where did the problem begin? When did the problem develop? Who caused the problem? How can I resolve the problem? Self-talk helps one systematically think while probing into the mind and finding answers in the subliminal mind. Proven records show that students solve problems effectively by following this model. Self-development is a strong subject in the world today and is one of the most extensive challenges any one of us must take on. Through self-talk and self-regulation, however, one can probe in the mind to discover ways to develop the whole self. It is essentially the requirement of all humans to meet this whole self. Ultimately, one can heal the body and mind through self-discovery. In the new age, personal transformation is strongly encouraged. Start your self-talk and regulation class today at home or at education and get on the road to success. Education in personal transformation, self-esteem. At one point in time, each of us has opened a discussion with ourself. However, many people felt that it was a sign of mental or emotional disorder, so they feared talking to the self while in the company of others. Some of the older generation had thought children that were talking to themselves were a thoughtless action. Some of these people believed that children were conjuring up a mischievous scheme when they were seen talking to themselves. Today, however, adults are becoming more educated and starting to recognize that self-talk is natural techniques that can help one make personal transformations while building self-esteem. Teaching is not as straightforward as imparting and passing on knowledge in the existing schooling context. It has been without fail searching for ways to scale new heights by adopting original and concepts that have been institutionalized in recent times. Most people have discovered that language is the hardest to learn in education. Largely, the problem develops from widespread languages and broken language in America. Still, verbal communication is the most important skill and knowledge in everyone's daily life. No one truly lives without communicating via speaking, body language, eye contact, hands, and writing. Although the aptitude of writing as well as speaking is widely debated almost in every part of the world, that is in fact an act of God, a gifted talent. However, there are theories that methodically deliberate those language skills both in the medium of speaking and writing can be enhanced with the adoption of specific strategies or methods. Coming to their defense in a large way, it is the truth that language is a gift from God and can be learned effectively through observation and listening. Thus, God gave us parents and teachers in order to help us all develop our skill of using language. Thus, we all are taught in some way. Lev Vygotsky introduced the planned process in unique ways to our education programs. He ventured to introduce private speech, which through deliberations discussed, he plainly stated that children can talk to themselves privately, with the cognitive role model would help them to adapt into personal transformation smoothly. Like always, when something positive is introduced, and despite that it is a proven technique, someone stepped in to argue otherwise. John Piaget, in the psychology sector, labeled the action of talking to the self as an egocentric speech, which contributed no support to self-development. One would think this intelligent mind would know otherwise, but even the most intelligent do not see every angle at all times. Piaget's hypothesis brought on arguments, which Piaget believed that children that talked to themselves were labeled as acting immature, as thinking aloud was not outgoing in any way because it's non-reciprocal. Piaget was proved wrong. Despite that, he believed that communication was primarily based on socialization, and interaction was necessary in order for language aptitude to improve to a certain extent as evaluated to the speech repetitions to oneself. Sadly, Piaget did not recognize his own inner gift, and labeled such people that communicated with the self as narcissistic. He concluded in his misjudgment that speech was not directed to anyone, which resulted in self-orientation behavior. This egocentric behavior will fade away gradually as the person ages because of increasing interaction and communication with others. Vygotsky's theory, on the other hand, opposed to this idea almost completely, as he sees such think-aloud aids in the individual's cognitive development to a large extent. One similarly to Piaget's view is that when the child grows older, such action of talking to oneself diminished. Yet it is different since the action continues and is the private discussion within. Vygotsky sees that with self-regulated private speech, the child are able to solve problems and difficulties because there is a constant practice or self-directed questions and answers sequence being taken place in this process. Listen to the arguments.